From the Fourth Period NHL Network and SiriusXM NHL Network Radio, it is Dave Pagnotta. DP, what's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. I'm hanging in. I get to cover more playoff action. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I know. It's a different tone here in Toronto, but the only question I want answered, will they finally get rid of that fucking goal song, man?
That, you know what? I probably, if Shanny has a presser, I won't be here. I'm going to Florida for that series. But
Okay.
if somebody should ask him, because he's the reason that freaking song is still around. He picked it.
Yeah, but I want whoever asks has to swear that fucking goal song. I think really puts it through, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, if you want to piss him off, then yeah, go for it.
I think I've done enough already. Where is this guy, Dave? Where is this guy?
Well, I think he wants to figure out what's going on with his GM first, or at least have a clearer picture. We know that, Dubas came out and said that he's got to talk to his family and decide what they want to do. Clearly, this was hard on them. I think there was, a few instances that over the season off the ice that they had to deal with. So I get it. I understand it's a big decision for him and his family. From Shanahan's perspective, they want to get a good scope. You've got to do your exit interviews with your players. You got to do your exit interviews with your coaches, your managers, your scouting staff. You want to try to encompass everything because this is, and it should be, a pretty active offseason for the Maple Leafs. So if Shanny needs a few more days, whatever it is, I'd rather he come at everybody with all the accurate information rather than just brush stuff aside and say, I still have to talk to this guy. I still got to talk to that guy. I mean, he may end up doing that, but I hope he doesn't. I hope he just do what you got to do, take a few extra days, and just lay it all out there for everybody so the fans don't lose their shit.
What's your sense? Are we all waiting for a bomb to drop here over the next couple of days?
I'd be a little surprised. I know they were talking extension with Dubas prior to, Monday's media avail. So, did it hit the pause button? Does he want a few more days? Like he was saying, he needs a week. Maybe that's part of it. I'm not expecting any kind of big bomb to drop. Unless they're making some kind of major change behind the bench, I'd be a little bit surprised. I think more so than anything, and I'll preface this, I'm not the biggest fan of the way that Keith has gone about the system for this team and the structure of this group in terms of their alignment. But I'm not a head coach, so I can only say so much. But I think if anything, it's more get your ducks in a row on the home front before you start looking to make major changes in this offseason, which, it's going to come around pretty quick. The Stanley Cup final ends if it goes 7, it ends in a month and a day from today. And then all of a sudden you got draft and free agency. So, excuse me, there's a lot to do in a very short period of time.
Do you think there's any scenario where they sort of put heat on Kyle Dubas? Because I do think time is of the essence. I talked about it off the top of the show. Next thing you know, the draft's around the corner. The Stanley Cup's going to be hoisted, free agency, all this conversation about a big-time trade potential. July 1st is probably the end date for that. So, you really want your GM working on things right now, no?
Yeah, you do. And that's why maybe they're giving him this week and he'll address the media on Monday. I don't know. But maybe they're giving him this extra time in order for him, for Dubas to get his situation solidified. And he said it. It's either Toronto or I'm going to take a break. So figure things out on the home front and then circle back and we'll finalize the conversation one way or another. But they were talking extension. There was a discussion about it. I think he's earned it. It's just a matter of, from what it appears anyway, to be a personal matter that he's got to deal with his family, and then they'll go from there. But again, from Shanahan's perspective, yes, you're going to address the media, but just make sure you know everything first, because if you give some cop-out answer, it's just going to piss everybody off that much more.
How about Brendan Shanahan? What's your sense on his job security?
That would be the biggest shock. I think he's as secure as anybody. I think, quite frankly, he deserves a lot of heat, and more heat than he's gotten, because he's kind of the puppet master in all of this. But as far as I can tell, his relationship with Tannenbaum and the rest of the owners and everybody is as rock solid as it can be, unless everybody's keeping one hell of a big secret. I would be shocked if there's anything negative from that perspective that lies on Shanny's hands.
So are we overplaying this whole narrative that they're going to make a seismic change like a la Matthew Kachuk? Like if this was a beautiful world of Tinder, does it come down to Mitch Marner and Nylander? Who's swiping right? Who's swiping left here? Because to me, I think that's the most logical
Well,
step. Like assuming Kyle Dubas is coming back, maybe there's a change with Sheldon Keefe. There's no chance in hell they come back with the same core, is there?
I mean, well, first of all, where did all this Mitch Marner stuff come from in terms of like him or Nylander? Mitch Marner's the better player, bar none. It's not. It's not a question. He's a better overall player. He's a near 100-point guy. He is a very passionate individual, and yeah, he takes a lot of heat for some of the off ice stuff and the local kid sort of and all that stuff. But I mean, he's a great two-way type of forward. Apparently, he can play defense.
No, he
So
can't.
like this is a really really good player. I don't understand the he. I know there's always a whipping boy somewhere for whatever the hell the reason. But Mitch Marner is arguably the team's best player right now and has been for the last whatever 18 months. Austin is fantastic. Bit of an off year, and he will be, by the way, when he signs his extension, and he will sign an extension. He'll be the highest paid player in the NHL. Now, Mitch is, you look at the numbers, he's been, I mean, outside of the 60 goal season by Austin, he's been better. I don't understand the narrative that there's all this pooping all over Mitch for whatever the reason. If you're trading somebody, it's I guess you could trade Mitch. Certainly, you could trade anybody, but I mean, William Nylander is the guy that you look at, and he has that value. He's got the value tied to it. His value probably won't be higher. He could step into an environment on another team, excuse me, in a better position as a full-time first line guy, first power play guy, and put up some good numbers, some really really good numbers. I just don't understand why he doesn't get more attention on that front versus what everybody crapping all over Mitch Marner. I don't get it. I think if you're making a seismic change, and how many of those deals really come to fruition? The Kachuk, Huberto, Uyghur type deals, like that kind of shit doesn't happen often, and it hasn't happened forever, which is why we haven't seen it. I think this is a situation where the Maple Leafs look at this and go, okay, we can combo a Nylander type and with somebody else and try to make some other type of big move a la Calgary, Florida. I think that's the direction that they would rather go in. But I mean, Kyle made it clear he's willing to listen on anybody.
Yeah, and I think generally speaking, people are torn because they look at Mitch Marner and say, "Hey, this guy is phenomenal in the regular season. When push comes to shove and the game becomes really, really important, he's nowhere to be found. His face on a milk carton." And then you look consistently; it's always William Nylander, who of the core four is the best player to be found in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I think you look at the value of the contract. I think you look at maybe the money they can save from Mitch Marner, maybe the 3+ million. Overlaying it over another year when it comes to the Nylander contract. Like there's a lot of moving parts. And I
Well,
think just people have had enough of these guys not doing anything in the playoffs.
okay, what's Willie done defensively? Because I remember certain circumstances over the course of the playoffs where everybody was bitching and complaining about his lack of energy, lack of defensive prowess, lack of getting back into the zone and doing anything to help out his team. He's one-dimensional. That's what everybody was saying. So do you want the one-dimensional guy who's going to cough up a few goals and score one or two? Or are you going to go after the guy that's still trying to create chances but is responsible in his own zone? He's trying to play a 200-foot game and do what he can. I get, like, I'm not, both guys are flawed in certain respects.
Yeah.
I just think it's unjustified that it's only on Mitch or only, like, Austin was trying. He didn't score. He was trying. He was getting chances. Mitch did. JT did, just in the first round. And then they got their looks. They weren't finishing. I don't care if you're getting your chances. You got to bury. So the hate, so to speak, that's put towards some of these guys, especially Mitch, from the offensive side of things, I fully understand. But you have to look at everything. And just because William Nylander ties the game up and sends it to overtime doesn't discount the fact that he is a liability defensively in certain circumstances throughout the course of the game. And I love William Nylander, and I'll take him on my team any day of the week. But I'm beating the crap into him that he has to be more responsible defensively. And maybe that's on the coaching staff for not doing that. And if that's the case, and he doesn't care, and I'm not saying he does or doesn't. I'm just saying, like, you need to make sure that this type of player in these types of environments, you're not just losing out on a play. You're not just giving up on a defensive opportunity.
I like it. I mean, it's a healthy debate, and that's why people are having it out there. Should it be Nylander? Should it be Marner? Who knows what happens with Austin Matthews? But you mention it, right?
Look,
It's your belief that Matthews is going to resign here, right?
yeah, I think he'll get a 3 or 5 year extension. He'll be the highest paid player in the league. After that, we'll see. Depends how the rest of the thing goes. The Leaf seasons and progress and all that. But I'm pretty positive. I would be shocked if they don't get an extension done. I know they've discussed it. They had back and forth conversations throughout the season. You can't officially sign until July 1. But they've got a good idea of what each side is looking at, and they'll figure it out. But I think it'll be a 3 or 5 year extension.
Interesting. Okay, Dave, we'll leave it at that. I'm sure as we get closer and closer to the draft of the offseason, we'll have you on once again. By the way, a lot of people in the chat agreeing with your take on Marner ahead of Willie Nylander. So we'll see what happens. But first and foremost, I want to hear from Brendan Shandiego. Can't find the guy right now.
And where in the world is Brendan Shanahan?
Very well done, Dave. We'll talk soon. Have fun in Florida, okay?
Thanks, buddy. See ya.
See ya.